Hi, everyone, and welcome to the One Podcast. Today's guest, I love her name, I love what she does, and I feel like she's going to have an energy you haven't experienced with any of my other guests. So I'm very excited for you to meet Priyanka Venketesh. She is an astrologer, an ancestral healer, and a sacred arts mentor. And through the Biz Goddess Company, Priyanka empowers coaches all over the world to find their highest expression of work as priestesses and light workers by healing their ancestry and stepping into the highest timeline of their birth chart. I'm so excited to hear a little bit about your background and how you got into this. And then tell us about this magic of what you are and what you do.
Yes. Oh, I am so excited to be here, first of all. And I'm really, really excited to have this conversation with you. I started my journey in law,
Oh,
and I had this experience with an astrologer that changed the course of my destiny. And what this astrologer told me completely changed my destiny because they gave me the worst reading possible to another person. In the midst of so much heartbreak and just depression and so much suffering that I was going through in that time, he told me that my future was full of suffering, that I'll be fired from every job that I'll ever be in, and that my fate would be exactly like my mother and her mother before her, which was being married off in an arranged loveless marriage.
oh
So
my
all
God.
of this, yes. And after that, they told me that for 15,000, they would do a ritual to turn my fate around. So I was like, okay, fine. This is just not it for me. But before they said that,
Uh-huh.
as they were giving me this prediction, something in me, which I fully feel was the voice of God, said no. Because something happens when someone predicts something about your life. You either accept it and you make that agreement with them, or you completely reject it, completely reject that fate and speak to something higher than you.
Yeah.
And in that moment, when this person was predicting this about me, something in me said, no, it's
This is
not for me. The
mm,
cycle ends with me.
ooh.
My mother and my grandmother have been through so much,
Mm,
but they chose me to be here so that I could break that cycle. And
ooh.
so I broke things off with my person at the time and we separated. I decided not to be in law anymore. I was supposed to go for a master's degree to Netherlands, but then I decided that in the last minute I was like, no, I'm not going to go. And this was right before COVID started.
Mhm.
So divine timing. And I started off my journey as a personal development something, which I didn't know exactly what it was, but came across this NLP training and I got into it, and that's how my journey started.
Wow.
But through that journey, I came back to astrology because I kept asking myself this question of why it was that that prediction, although it predicted some things right, which was that I was never supposed to be, I would have been fired from every job because I would never have been able to be in that job. But
Mhm.
why is it that I was able to turn fate around? And why
Yeah.
is it that some people can't? And as I started asking myself those questions, the answers came to me and I was able to go into this journey of being an astrologer myself. What I changed in that moment was that I was never going to be the kind of astrologer who predicts things
Mm,
because I know that there's a bigger plan that we can never predict. What I did find out was that you really can change your destiny at
mm.
any moment, and that whatever decision you make, in hindsight, if you go back and look at your chart, it'll be there, but not before, never before.
Ooh, that's really powerful because I have never heard someone say that before. So I want to highlight that. So every decision that you make, you look back and you'll see that it was in your chart, but not before.
No, never before. Unless it's a decision that you're in alignment with, complete alignment with, and you believe it,
Ah,
you won't be able to see it, not to its entirety. So
wow.
you'll notice that some people who go to an astrologer and they ask for what is going to happen in my future,
Mm-hmm,
in the next
mm-hmm.
year, in the next 2 years, in the next 3 years, the astrologer tells them you're going to have this, you're going to have that. Sometimes it's a breakup, sometimes you're going to find the love of your life, but you don't know where the story is ending and what are these pieces what is the
Yeah.
puzzle piece that's the art that's being formed here. You don't
Mhm.
see that. So it could be that you have a breakup that the astrologer predicts 6 months down the line, but what you don't see is that there's a love story brewing for you
Yes.
3 years down the line that's going to
Hmm.
change the fate of the world. The
Yeah.
world is going to see love differently through you. You don't see that, and the astrologer can't see that. but you will see it the day it happens. You go and look back at your chart, the entirety of the design is there in your chart, but never before.
That's really beautiful. I love that. If that had been my experience with an astrologer, and he or she told me all of that, I think I would have been, had you been to astrologers before, I think I would have been so turned off that I'd have been like, or had you had good experiences and then you just knew this one was clearly off? I mean, it was so like ruining your future. What made you want to go into that?
I actually knew about astrology and very intimately knew astrology because my grandmother is an astrologer.
Oh,
She's a
perfect.
Vedic astrologer.
Hmm.
But even in that, it never resonated with me because
Interesting.
the things that she would say and the way she would predict things, it's very much this is going to happen. And
Mm,
very much this is God's plan. And this is the suffering that you'll entail and this. And it never resonated because I felt like there's more to the story that we are not seeing.
right.
We're taking the guidance from our astrology teachers, which are incredible and should be revered in their own right, but we're not listening to the other
Element.
power, the greater power. That's part of it is missing. And when we miss that, we miss the whole story because we don't see the divine design as divine design. We see it as something that is cause and effect. I did this, this will happen. I was born into this family, this is why my fate is like this. And karma is a big part of Vedic astrology. So because I was born into this family, this is my karma. It's like
Mm,
it doesn't factor in that there's something greater than you that's pulling at your heartstrings,
mm,
telling you that maybe you are here to break the cycle.
yes.
Maybe there's a different fate for you. Maybe fate is something that you're supposed to study. Maybe fate is something that you're supposed to turn. Maybe the freedom lies in you understanding that that the free will is in you choosing freedom, not doing anything that you
Mm,
wish to do. Maybe
yeah.
that's the story that you're supposed to bring here. But that requires us to look within and not to an astrologer. And that is something that not a lot of astrologers like.
Here's an astrologer telling you to look within. But I
Yeah.
think, but what makes you so different is that you are willing to look at there's so much more to it. So I am curious because I've only been to a couple astrologers in my life and I was actually fascinated by it. I didn't really have any negative readings, but I didn't have anything absolutely too detailed. And I had been to different types of energetic readers, I would say, and someone who sees dead people. So my impression, and tell me, how is it that astrologers can see certain things but not seeing others? Is it dependent upon their gifts? Is it dependent upon what they're choosing to actually see? Is it an energetic alignment thing? What's your opinion or thoughts on that?
So my personal experience and my personal philosophy on this is that you will find an astrologer that is at the same frequency as you, at the same consciousness as you. And if you truly feel like your future is uncertain and that you don't know what's going to happen and that you need to ask someone for an answer, you will find an astrologer that's at that level. Now, there are layers to this. Astrology, if you look at an astrology chart, it's like a wheel.
Mm-hmm.
It's like there's an order to things and there's a cycle that's being moved. And so what happens is that cycle keeps moving until there's a break in the cycle.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's exactly how your energetic frequency is. That's exactly what karma is. And it'll keep moving. So if you're very much enmeshed with that cycle, you don't know anything about personal development, you don't know anything about the mind, you don't know anything about the psyche, you don't know anything about the subconscious realm, and that you're completely enmeshed in the energetic cycles of your parents, your ancestors, then when you go to an astrologer in search for an answer, the answer would most probably, not even probably, 100% be completely correct. Whatever they predict for you will be in energetic alignment because the cycle hasn't broken yet.
Yeah.
And there is a divine law, which is that the order must continue until it's broken, until there's a new order. The order must always continue, always continue. It's divine law. So when you start to get deeper into your frequency, you start to ask deeper questions. What is it that I'm supposed to do here? What is it that I'm not doing differently from my family? Why is it that I'm stuck in the cycle that is not for my highest good? Then you find a different astrologer.
Mm.
However, even in that, if you're asking for your future, you will get an answer that's not for your highest good. And
Mm.
the reason for that is that you're still asking a human being for something that is divine.
Yes, something outside of
So the
yourself.
way astrologers predict, and this is why it's called a prediction, is that we look at your past and we see the patterns there. Your birth chart is essentially a consolidation of your entirety of your consciousness. That's your birth chart. It was a space-time event the moment you were born. And which is why we don't do readings for children, because they're up until a certain age, you can't really figure out exactly how the energies are being formed.
Oh,
So I think till 7, 10, that's when we start doing astrology readings for children.
okay.
Although people do that before that, but you get a really strong reading after a certain age. So once the consciousness is consolidated, then you look at their chart, and that's the entirety of their consciousness. All the beliefs they've taken from their parents, all the beliefs they've taken from their ancestors, from their environment, you can see that.
Okay.
And then you take that birth chart, and there are different methods in astrology through which you can predict transits, Arabic lots. There are many different predictive methods that can predict predictably, looking at
Mhm.
your birth chart, looking at this consciousness, what could happen when the planets are moving and the planets intersect this birth chart at a certain time, how the
Mhm.
consciousness is going to move. So it's a really good tool, but it's a very limiting tool because when you sit across from an astrologer, most of the times it's not a divine revelation that you get. Most of
Yeah.
the time you get a validation for your
Mhm.
past.
Mhm.
Someone sees you for the first time, someone understands what your inner thoughts were. But in that moment, when you're sitting across from an astrologer, all the decisions leading up to that moment have already happened. So when you look at the past, you can see the divine design,
Mhm.
but never before. So when you're sitting next to an astrologer, you can see the past and you can see all the divine designs that happen. It gives you validation.
Mm.
But that is not an effective method to predict your future because it really, really limits you. And most of the times, if you're asking an astrologer for your future, God's not going to reveal it to you. Not through the astrologer, not in its entirety. It's going to reveal maybe bits and pieces. And this is what I've noticed. A lot of the times, it will reveal to you the information that you need to know to still move through that path.
Mhm.
And then you move through that path, and then you realize, oh, this was always meant to happen. And then you start to go within and find out what is your own creative capacity. How can you connect to this higher power
Ooh.
instead of connecting to another human?
I love this because you see it so differently than I'd ever heard it before. I was writing down when you're sitting in front of an astrologer, depending on the energy frequency that you're at, you're going to get validation for your past because you normally go when you're either hoping for something that you haven't seen evidence of yet, or you're feeling stuck and don't know how to get out of it and thinking, oh, please let something be better. So it's going to validate where you're at now. And I liked how you said you're still asking a human for something divine. That's so true. We can't ask anyone else for our divine answers. We can get some guidance and we can get really solid advice and we can definitely get input. We can consider, well, I do think there's been times if someone's been really energetically connected to me and I'm spinning out and can't seem to get clarity, I have had someone say something to me that, oh, that answer definitely came through you for me. But for me to consider, it has never been, you need to go do this exact thing and your husband will be on the left, you know. I think when you and you could correct me if I'm wrong or validate me, but I think when you're energetically connected to someone nearby and you're both on a rising frequency, and when you can't seem to get an answer, I do think divine inspiration can come through someone to help you if you're seeking and they're open and you're connected properly. But you're right. We can't go to an astrologer who doesn't even know us and expect them to all of a sudden get all this divine wisdom. That's not the way God and the universe works. And yet, that's what we're hoping for. We're hoping for that quick answer instead of the, I'm answering you. Look around. There's all sorts of little blessings and gifts and inspiration guiding you to the next step, but I'm not telling you the next step because there's beauty on your journey and lessons for you to learn and character traits you need to develop. And there's a bunch of things as you're growing, and then your answers will come. And I think sometimes it's hard to be patient for the answers. So we're like, hey, will you tell me? Will you tell me what's going to happen here? am I going to marry this person? Am I going to get that job? Where do I find my $10 million? So, when you started off in this career, how do you navigate that? I know I don't have all the answers, yet clients are coming to me for guidance. So that's how you formulated your entire business to be much more comprehensive to work with them on the reconnection. Talk about that because I loved that part of your bio.
Yes. So, as you were speaking, something that came through me that I wanted to share was that there are two frequencies at play in our psyche at any moment. One is that we are searching for the answer, which is ultimately that we're searching for God because we want this omnipotence power to know everything about our future, our past, everything that makes sense.
Yeah.
One is that. The other is that there's something in us that's in a knowing frequency. You don't know. Have you ever had that feeling when you're in fear, you're in the middle of chaos, and yet
Yes.
you don't know how you know. But the fear is not the
Oh,
kind of fear that you felt before. It's a different kind of fear. It's like being on a roller coaster kind of fear. There's a knowing in you.
yes.
When you're on that path, you're in already God's plan.
Ooh, I love that.
In that path, you don't have to search for an astrologer. You don't have to search for an oracle. They will find you.
Ooh.
Always.
Oh.
God will send an oracle down your path. And this is why I love, as much as I'm speaking about this different side of this
Mhm.
study, I love this discipline so much. I love this study of the divine design so much because there's an unveiling of God's mind
Ooh.
in this study.
Mm-hmm.
When you're in this kind of intuitive knowing, there's something in you, you don't even know what it is, but there's a hand on your chest that says, I know, I know. And in that moment, you will something through a friend. I had an oracle come to my door and they said something to me that was exactly, it turned out to be exactly what happened. And they were from the Gurdwara, which is a Sikh temple. And they were just collecting donations for Langar, which is basically where they have this gathering. They collect donations to give food to everyone. Anyone is welcome in a Langar. So as I gave them the money, oh no, actually I didn't give them because I didn't have any. I was just coming back from
Like,
I was just
well,
coming
thank you,
from
but
yes, I was
yeah,
just coming back from college and I
yeah.
spent my last penny on the transportation. So I didn't have any cash to give them. But they were like, as they were walking away, they said this, there's something about your energy. I don't know why I want to say this, but I have something to say to you. And everything they told me has come to be true. But I didn't go
Wow.
in search of them.
Yeah.
And as I was going from college to my apartment in that time, there was still a knowing. This was the last year of my college, and there was a knowing within me that I don't know why I'm not supposed to be on this path. I don't know why I'm not supposed to be on this path. And at the same time, there was a hand in my chest that said, I know you're going to be on a path. You're going to be on my path. And
Mm.
I found this person. So when you're in this intuitive knowing, Oracle will find you, an
Ooh.
astrologer will find you through some means, maybe right at your doorstep, but they will find you because human beings are also God signs. So
Mm-hmm.
we will find you.
Yes.
So anyone that comes to in my page, my Instagram, my readings, I've always found that this used to happen to me initially, where I was like, maybe there's a glitch in the matrix where I'm only getting clients who are about to do some
Mm-hmm.
extraordinary things, like incredible things. So maybe there's a glitch in the matrix because all the astrology that I've read up so far has told me that you're supposed to have this, you're supposed to tell them about this, and these are women who are on the path to greatness. So
Yeah.
why is it that I'm getting here, these women here? And then I found out why, because I was in deep study of astrology. And so I made an agreement with God, which is
Mm.
essentially that if you provide for me, I will do anything and everything for your people because I realized that God was sending me very precious people who are very precious to Him,
Mm-hmm.
very, very precious to God.
Mm-hmm.
And so I made this agreement, and that's everyone who comes into my world somehow gets it.
Ooh.
And I've realized they have this knowing, all of them have this knowing that they're on this path to greatness. So it's not even a question for them when I tell them that this is going to happen. They're like, I know, I knew, I always knew in the whispers of my heart. And when I'm in bed, I always knew. I just needed to know what it was that was blocking me in my psyche. And that's, I feel, what the truth of astrology is. It's a revelation of your psyche. Everything that you have ever been through, everything that you have ever collected from anyone in your past, even in a past life, can be seen in your astrology. And
Wow.
anything that is blocking you from your highest greatness, from walking in the prophesied destiny that's spoken over you, anything that's blocking it can be revealed from that. And that's, I feel, is the truth of astrology, not for us to play God, but for us to help God.
Mm. Ooh, that's powerful too. Not for us to play God, but for us to help God. So, for someone who is listening or watching, if they've never heard of an oracle, does it have to be someone very spiritual, or is it just someone who is on that frequency that has a knowing that connects with a message that they can share with you? How do you describe an oracle?
An oracle for me is someone who delivers God's message. Any message that God has, and you feel it in your heart and you say it and it feels like a truth in your body, you're an oracle. Whether you chose it or not, you were chosen for it. So that is an oracle. And
Whether you chose it or not, you were chosen. I think sometimes
yeah,
in life we feel that. I want to laugh and I want to cry at the same time. As you said those words, I literally thought about the one podcast. Like it or not, this is what you're supposed to do, Lisa. And I want to cry because I'm touched by it. And then I want to laugh because, of course, I fought it for so long. And yet, like it or not, you were chosen. You're going to do this. And that is exactly how I feel. But that wasn't what we meant. It just came that way. I love what you're saying. It brings a whole different feeling to astrology than I've ever felt before because there's such a level of, I want to say magic. There is and I don't even want to say spirituality. There's such, uh, it's mystical mixed with elegance, mixed with, as you've been saying, and knowing. I had heard recently there was a 3-day training, and I think her name is Jamie Kern Lena. She's famous. She sold her makeup company for billions of dollars, but it took her years upon years upon years. People were terrible to her. She tried forever. QVC turns her down. Then years later, she manages to get one little feature on QVC. And she's like, this is my one and only shot. And I guess they were literally on the verge of bankruptcy. Anyway, she ends up selling out, ends up magically being like their number one selling product, sells her company for millions or billions. But she talked about her knowing. And there was this one time in this process where all these people kept saying no to her. And she said, I had decided inside me that I was not going to listen to their no's. I was always going to stay in my knowing. And I thought, ooh, I'm going to have to talk about that on the podcast one day. Always sticking with your knowing. And I love how you're talking about it. It feels like a hand on your chest. For so many listeners, I'm sure there's something popping in their head like, ooh, I remember I've had that knowing. I've buried it. I've tried to silence it. Or, yeah, that's how I ended up in this incredible business as I followed my knowing. There's all sorts of versions on here, but I don't think there will be anyone who can say, I've never had a knowing. We may not have recognized it, but it's in there. So, what's something you can do right away to really start connecting to your knowing, your purpose, what's coming next, like finding your next intuitive action, your next intuitive step?
so what's coming through very strongly is that before you come across any astrologer, any oracle, create a relationship that's very intimate, very sacred, almost like an ode to God.
Mhm.
Now, this can take many forms because God takes many forms in our minds. Some people don't even resonate with the word God. Some people resonate with the word universe.
Mhm.
Some people resonate with the great I am.
Mm.
When we say the words I am that I am, they resonate with that. Whatever that is, that in your body, when I ask the question to you, how do you know that you're alive? What
Mm.
is it in you? What is the space that you go to when I ask you the question, are you alive? Whatever that is within you, sit with that
Mm.
as long as you can, because that's the only truth you know. Everything else is our perception, everything else is a sensation in our body, it's a belief even. But the only truth we know is that space that we go to when we ask the question, am I alive? So when you go to that space, can you sit with that longer than longer than you want to, longer than your body wants to.
Mm-hmm.
If the answer is no, then maybe try to ask yourself why that is.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe ask yourself, what is it that about that truth that makes you uncomfortable? And as long as you can reside in the knowing that this space within you, that I am, that space where you go to, the awareness in you will always, always keep you safe, will always have your best interest, will never, ever let you down.
Mm-hmm.
Not 1 second goes by that it doesn't think of you. Not 1 second goes by that it doesn't know about you. Not one part of your past is hidden from this God, this knowing within you. And so whatever you ask it, it is ready to give you, ready to give you. There's nothing that you can ask that's too big. And so that is a space that you go ask. And then an astrologer will come your way.
Or or you just found her right here on this podcast. So
Mhm.
the question that popped in my mind when you said that was there's going to be at least one who says, well, if this is so true, and if it will always answer me, why am I not getting answers? Why can't I accomplish the thing I want? And I know growing up, I had a contorted view of what I thought God was. And I'm not saying anything bad about religion. I had created my own understanding of what my religion was. And so I always thought when I wasn't receiving or accomplishing the things I wanted, then I'm not worthy. I'm not good enough. I haven't been behaving well enough. I could always find, and I always assumed, that something I was doing was wrong or something I was doing was not worthy. And so it made me feel like, well, just tell me what to do then to be better so I can get the answers. So, how do you advise people when they say, yeah, I know there's a knowing, I know that I'm alive, I feel like I'm somewhat connected, but why can't I get what I want? What do you normally respond to that? My assumption is it's kind of a frequency and alignment thing. It's not an unworthiness thing at all, or that there are signs and signals all around you. You're just not recognizing them because you're not open to see. But do you have clients that say that, or how would you respond to that?
So I was the person who used to say that. So I have the perfect story for this
Oh, I love it.
because I understand this. I feel it. I have been this. And I know it so deeply that I can just go into my memory bank and pull that Priyanka out. What's coming through for me? I was never picked for anything. I was not chosen for anything. The the men that I was with, or either picked someone else or cheated on me. Any academic thing, I was always picked over someone. There
Mm,
was a lot of bullying. I even grew up in a violent household. So there was a lot of stuff that happened in my past, a lot of abuse, a lot of trauma, a lot of things that came out through in this body that always made me go down on my knees and cry out every single day. Why are you letting this happen to me? Why me? What did I
mhm,
do?
mm,
And when I started to go down this path and finally reached an astrologer and asked her, why is this happening to me? And she said, because your life is full of suffering and you're supposed to be on this path. That was the day when I was at the end of my road that something came through and said no.
mm,
So I don't think if you're listening to this and you're like, why can't I get what I want? Me telling you any answer to that would be sufficient. But there will come a day when you will realize that maybe that was part of the story so that you can come on a podcast and tell someone else. There
mm,
is comes a time when God speaks to you. When that time comes, it's undeniable, it's indisputable, it's absolute truth in your body. And everything in that moment aligns to bring you to a new reality. Everything. It's it's like a miracle how it happens.
mm.
And so maybe I'm not the one who's supposed to answer this for you.
Yeah.
Maybe there's something that's going to answer this for you.
Oh, and I just did exactly what we talked about earlier. If someone is asking that, they're asking someone who can't give them the divine answer. The answer to that is a divine internal answer. It's something that you have to seek within to get. But I also feel like there has to be the openness to hear. If you're in a place of, I'm not getting, I'm not getting, I'm not getting, and why can't I have and why can't I have? That was blocking any sort of frequency that would ever get me connected. I had to be open to, okay, could it be things that I'm doing? Could this be part of my plan? Can I be open to any answer that comes? And the releasing of the feelings of lack, sitting in the dissatisfaction, the blaming anyone outside of me, and the blame of myself. Being open to maybe this is part of my path. And can there be gifts in this that I haven't seen? And the more I was open to it being not as terrible as I saw it and looking for the little nuggets of what I could be grateful for in it opened me to either directions of guidance or gifts that I hadn't seen. There were times I was in miserable jobs that I did not like, but what I was missing by focusing on the miserable job was I was missing the incredible connections and the friendships that I was making. Or a future client came in and then ended up being one of my lifelong friends. Or there was many gifts that came through that, connections and collaborations that weren't part of the actual job itself, but it was a gift being in that environment so that I could be connected with other gifts. And I think sometimes when we look around and we're seeing something that causes us or we decide to feel dissatisfaction, there's the opportunity to recognize, well, I'm not liking the way that's done, or I'm not loving these circumstances. Could I do it differently, but better, using my gifts and my talents? Sometimes when we feel the negative, quote unquote negative, then it is our opportunity to recognize I might be seeing this so that I could create something better, that I could create something different. I could create a new opportunity from what isn't satisfying and peaceful and happy to me. But I don't know. Everybody's path is so unique to them. And yet, the underlying message of all of it is being connected to God, source, I am, the universe, whatever you want to call it, and consistently seeking for connecting to your specific purpose, your gifts, your talents, what you want to offer the world. So, talk about how you work with clients on connecting them to their priestess and helping them to really expand that. If I came across you on YouTube, that would just spark me up. I'd be like, wait a minute, I want to be a little bit more of my priestess. How do I do that? Yes, teach me all the things.
Yes. So the work that I do is ancestral healing and ancestral encoding.
Mm,
Because this is why I call this entire field and the entirety of these studies the sacred arts, because it's an intuitive knowledge that we as women have been passed down with.
mm,
It's like an intuition that we have that we can't explain. And when we try to explain it, we can't really capture it into words. It's like trying to capture the sun in a bottle. It's impossible to do.
mm,
And what is that intuitive knowledge? It's like something that's buried within us that we sometimes are even shameful about. Like when when I was speaking about the oracle, something that I was gonna add because for some reason I felt this download come through was that maybe someone feels like the oracle, but they don't want to admit that they're an oracle. Why is that? What is that thing that's blocking you? And so what I do with my clients is that I help them on this journey to uncover what it is that is a generational curse in their family, which maybe I can get into what the like the difference is, and what is the protection code that is protecting them from their highest timeline, and
mm,
what is the belief that in the past 7 generations that have plagued almost their generational line. And then what is underneath all of that? What is the code that's lying? What is the gift of your foremother that's underneath all of that? Because when I was talking about my grandmother, and which is why I mentioned her so much, she was an astrologer, but she was also in an incredibly abusive marriage, was married off at the age of 16 in an arranged marriage. She had no way out of this marriage. She made the best of it she could, and she turned to a tool that she found comfort in, which is astrology. And that gave her a lot of comfort to know in some part of her brain that maybe this was meant to be.
mm,
But what was dormant within her? That thing that led her to this sacred art, without even understanding what this was, without even knowing about it beforehand, it drew her. What is it in my family line that draws the women in my family to this art? Because then it passed down to me. Then
mm,
what is it in your family line that maybe is dormant? The freedom code is what I call it. It's a code that women have been passing down to their daughter and their daughter and their daughter after one another, that contains all the codes of living a truly pleasurable and incredible life. But underneath all the generational curses, underneath all the protection codes that women, protection codes are very different from generational curses, and then generational patterns. It's underneath all of that. So I help my clients clean up all those things. So that's when they can connect to their highest timeline. And when they do, everything in your birth chart makes a lot more sense. And everything that you see, so your birth chart is essentially a collection of where the planets were in a dance with each other at the time that you were born. So they were looking at each other, and maybe they were in a tango, maybe they were doing the salsa, maybe they were in a slow waltz. Whatever it was, they were dancing with each other. And some of them like each other, some of them don't, but they were in a dance with each other. And that dance is in your psyche right now. And as they're dancing with each other, the more you get to your truest code, the more you unveil what it is that you are here to do, which is what the freedom codes are, the more you get in touch with that, the cleaner you see this dance that's going on in your mind, in your psyche. And then you can start to play with the planets, and then you can start to get on your highest timeline.
I have never heard someone say it that way. The planets were dancing with each other. Some were doing the salsa, some like each other, some don't. And before we got on this podcast, I was like, there's such a little elegance about you. And for those of you that are listening, I hope you actually go and watch her, because there is a light about you and such a feminine elegance mixed with mystical magic. As you describe what you do, there's such a clear, absolute knowing this is what you're supposed to be doing. You're so perfect for this work. I'm so glad that you found this, you embodied it, you're actually expanding it all the time. You're welcoming the right clients. The clients that are attracted to you and that show up already have a really strong knowing. But even if you don't, I invite you to go and find her, because I think she will help you to get connected to your knowing faster than you could do on your own. And if you are someone who has that knowing, but also feels, wait a minute, I would like to be more connected to these priestess codes. I really want to understand where my blocks are. This is her whole body of work. And who doesn't want that? Who doesn't want to be a little more connected and realize there's more to me than I know. I'm capable of more than I even considered. So what if I look at these things? What if my life is already great, but I could do so much more? And I think actually taking the time to do this work, to connect with someone who knows what they're doing and to be able to guide you through it, this is the unveiling, the revealing, the taking away, the being aware. It feels so light and flowy, like let's clear it out. Definitely, it's not always going to be easy. You're carrying generational stuff with you. And especially our parents came from a generation where it didn't feel like they had a lot of choice, and our grandparents definitely didn't either. I think back about some of their choices, but never with any sort of judgment, because you look at our grandparents, and if they wouldn't have been exactly who they were in the exact circumstances that they were, they wouldn't have had our parents, and without our parents, we wouldn't be here. So thank God for them. If they didn't do it perfectly, they didn't, but thank God for them because we're alive, or thank the universe for them, whatever you prefer to say. But I love this. What's your favorite part of what you do in this career?
The women.
Mm.
I have a feeling that in this lifetime, it's not just that I'm going to be building this thing, this business, and these women, but I have a very distinct feeling that I'm here to spark the mind of someone incredible. And the second I had that feeling, I started noticing all my clients, and I was like, oh, they're going to do something incredible in this lifetime. I don't know exactly what they're going to do, but I just know they're here to create incredible movements. And I am genuinely so grateful that I get to be a part of it. I feel like that is my favorite thing about this entire body of work. Women and the things that they're doing in their lives, that I get to be alive to see that I get to be a witness to that. Especially because I know we see what's going on in the world, we see in different parts of the world how women are treated. So to see women who own that, who own their power, their serenities and their pleasure in the midst of all of it, and then go for it, it's just the most incredible thing that I could witness in this lifetime. So that's my favorite part.
And as you were saying that, I started to get emotional because we've talked about this on a number of the episodes, and yet I didn't think about this principle very much when I started. I remember when I started the One podcast, I kept having a couple of thoughts like, how am I going to narrow this down? I wanted people to come on and talk about how they've fully embodied being the one, but I also wanted it to be open enough where people could come and talk about this one specific moment in time that changed their life, or a specific sentence they contemplated and that changed their life. Like, what was the one thing that caused a change in you? And I do believe it's all about the ripple effect. And what I think is so beautiful about what you just said is that you have the knowing that they're going to do something great. You're in a moment where you actually get to appreciate, I feel these clients are going to do something incredible. And how lucky am I to be a part of this, to be an element on their path, helping them forward. I had the realization as you were saying that, one, it's your awareness. You're so in tune that you recognize that they're going to do something great. And then I wanted to add, we can be intersecting with someone who's about to become great and have no knowing. And I also want people to consider you might have already done something in your life that affected someone who already is or will become great. It's just we never, ever, ever can possibly comprehend the ripple effect of our actions. We can't. So you could have said something in the seventh grade to someone who was needing a friend, and then that person goes on to become one of the best-selling authors in the world. And they reflect back on to someone being kind to them in the seventh grade. You know, many examples we may or may not hear about. I all of a sudden feel this really strongly. If you happen to be listening or watching, and when I was saying that, you either felt of someone that you might have impacted, or you know in your mind and in your heart someone who impacted you in a way that helped you to become a greater version of yourself, I would definitely invite you to reach out and just say thank you and remind them, I don't know if you know that you did this for me. How fantastic would that feel to receive that? To know, oh my gosh, that thing I did had a ripple effect. I don't know if there will ever be a day that we will have the opportunity to be blessed with the visions of the great things that we did. But I love that that's your favorite part of what you do, is that you're not taking credit and you're not distancing yourself. You recognize the greatness in them, and for this period of time, you get to walk with them and help them become even more great. And it's kind of like this mother energy. I'm going to take in these beautiful souls and I'm going to help them to expand, and I'm going to let them go and do their great thing. And yet you're so aware that you're actually recognizing I'm in it. I'm in it right now, and I already see their greatness. I'm glad you said it that way, because that makes me want to change and makes me want to be more aware. As I'm saying that, I actually think sometimes we won't even know if they're going to turn out to be great because they don't know it yet. There could be people showing up in our lives that don't recognize their own greatness for another 5 years. Maybe they're showing up in our lives at a moment in time where they're not in their highest good, where they're having a really bad day or they're going through a really tough time. And if we can be aware that everybody has the possibility of greatness, we could be the oracle without knowing. We could be the turning point. We could be that little spark of light. Maybe it impacts them, maybe it doesn't. But I mean, at least we have the opportunity. When you recognize the greatness in others, or you believe in the possibility of everyone being great, which I do, I think we all have equal opportunity to live a fantastic, incredible life. And that's the whole reason for these stories, is let someone spark that in you, let someone remind you of that. And if you don't feel that, or if you haven't connected with that, start doing what she recommended. Get in touch with your knowing again. That hasn't gone away. You may not feel connected to it, but it hasn't gone away. And if you would like some guidance and support, this is what she does. You have to go and find her. How can they find you? Where are you on social media? Where's the best place to look for you?
First of all, I just want to soak in everything that you said because it was poetry. Like it
Mm,
felt like an ode to life itself.
mm.
It was just pure poetry. That's what it felt like. And I'm so grateful that you're in it, and that you're creating this movement. The second I heard the one, and even the way it was spelled out, the one, It felt like, this is it. This is the thing. This is the movement. This is it. This is going to create such a ripple effect. And we have no idea who it's going to impact, how it's going to be received. But there's a knowing in us, a hand on our chest,
Mm,
hand on your
mhm,
chest. So
yep.
I'm really grateful for you and for inviting me as well.
Mm,
So the best place that everyone can find me, and the place that I'm the most at, is Instagram. So you can find me at thebizgoddess.co, or
mhm.
you can find me on Facebook under Priyanka Venketesh. The space that I channel the most in and just post it as it comes, and sometimes it's very specific channels, is Threads. Threads is where I'm like, as it comes through me, I just post it. So if you want channelings, you can go there. So
Ooh,
these are the three platforms that I'm at.
perfect. And I will make sure there are all these links below for everything so you can find her everywhere. And then my favorite, I love that you just said that because my favorite question to ask at the end of everyone is sitting as the woman you are today and considering what you feel for yourself in the future, how would you end the sentence? I am the one who.
I'll sit with this for a moment because I feel like something is coming through.
Completely fine.
I'm the one who builds the ones. That's what's coming through.
I love that. I love that. You are. And I think there's even more. I think there's an even bigger answer that's coming to you, but not yet.
Yeah,
Yeah.
not yet. Yes.
Yep. Yep. I know it. There's even more of you haven't even discovered yet. How old are you?
Yeah. 28.
Oh yeah. No, there's more coming. You're not even in your 30s yet. Yes. Oh, there are some really incredible things ahead for you. I can feel it. I don't know it. I just feel it for you. But I have loved this. I've thoroughly enjoyed this. I hope you guys have as well. Definitely come and see her on YouTube if you're listening to her on the podcast. And we will see you again soon. Thank you for listening.